Hello! Well, we're rejoining this series right as John gains a level. Okay. Gained a very nice piece of aim adjust stat. But I'm not going to talk too much about that right now. You all know how this sort of situation works out. Instead, I want to talk a little bit about the dangers of recording games for YouTube. And I'm not talking about the usual YouTube hazards of things like strained voice, bruised egos, and of course, sick burns. Now I'm talking more about what happens when you change the reasons that you enjoy a hobby. Now, I'll of course never say that video games are stress-free, especially the online ones, but when you're doing this for, I don't know, for an audience, it can sometimes take a little bit of the fun out of it. And when you line up too many projects at once, or stop thinking so much about what you enjoy and instead think about what might get I beg your pardon, what might hold an audience or attract new people, it can start to feel more like a job. And I've encountered a bit of that, and I've had to stop playing some games so I can de-stress with other non-YouTube project games, which is a new experience for me, let me tell you. Well, I'd say that was a dodge action well spent. And I think part of the problem is that I've put a little bit too much time into blind playthroughs, or playthroughs of games that I haven't really completed previously. Which sounds like the same thing, but for some of these projects I've played through the game beforehand on my own just to make sure I know everything that I need to. And even then, the feel of it is kind of different, because instead of just playing the game, I'm thinking about what exactly I want to show off, the things I want to say, whether it makes good viewing material. It's an overall change in tone. I think that what I'm doing works best is when it's with a game that I've played on my own before I even started my YouTube channel, and it's a game that I'm already sure that I enjoy a great deal and I just want to show to other people. Like, Ring of Red is an example of this. I've played Ring of Red in the past, I love it, I wish more people knew about it. But, for example, my Dark Souls playthrough, I knew basically nothing, that's kind of the point. And, well, the game is well known for being frustrating for newcomers. And that's when they're not in front of an audience, so it takes some patience and some awareness of what kind of state I'm in. Oh well. Which is not to say that I regret doing that series. It's more like, I don't know, I feel like I need to be more careful in the future about what I'm doing. And I might need to just decide on one or two things and stick with them instead of worrying about what I'm gonna have on my channel in the future. Now going back to Ring of Red, I'm not going to finish this enemy in one round unless I spend 2 maximum attacks. One to make sure this hits, and, well, I guess I shouldn't have really expected it to hit the legs with such low base accuracy. And the other maximum attack is, of course, our favorite Rapid Punch. I felt perfectly okay doing this because, especially in her current role, Ryoko doesn't have to use maximum attacks that often. Also, I'm sure you noticed, I've started speeding up the walking animations before a punch. It's because of things like that and the long skill animations that are repeated frequently throughout a map and the lack of I was about to say a lack of quick save, but that's not quite right. The lack of a full save in the middle of battles. I mean, I can understand why they did that. They don't want you to do save scumming. But, I don't know, giving you one actual game save every, say, 12 hours of on-map time would be really nice. Just saying. Poor Weisegger. He doesn't have anything to do in this sort of situation, and he needs to be in a place where he can follow up on attacks, but he also needs to not get in the way. Also, that tile of river just in front of Emilio is causing some problems. Oh, and I was kind of surprised that he couldn't attack the medium AFW in the village from there. Probably has something to do with how the river tiles work. Like, one is occupied by the enemy and the other is, well, you can't attack across a river, so I guess that's just why the game said nope. So what's Ryoko gonna do next? Like, after that recovery, she's close enough to contribute, maybe. But she'd be on our own. On her own. Except for her squads, but you know what I mean. So this is, without a doubt, a tricky situation. Of course I want my recons out here to help with co-op and for sniping. But the enemy has a snipe ready, and that would put my recons in a very dangerously low state of health. And I might need them later in this map. But the only way I feel that's absolutely certain to prevent snipe is to do this, which is his last maximum attack, which I didn't know that at the time I pressed the button. I thought he had one left. Also, wow, I wonder how much damage Spray Fire would have done. Also, I'm really glad they sent out their recon on their own, because that makes eliminating them much easier. Of course, now I have to pull my recon back, and the enemy, being a four-leg, is... well... they're gonna be moving backwards a lot. So, while I'm stuck moving my squads around, I'm probably gonna be put at medium range. That was not very impressive. Yep, that did it. I never quite understood why the AFW itself is sent reeling by a flash shot. I mean, it'll stun the pilot and the crew, that's the whole idea of it. But the machine itself, I don't know. Oh, and for those who have played online games, well, the idea of a video game that feels more like a job probably sounds very familiar. Yes, I went there. It was actually a little bit too easy. Now there is zero chance of my recon being able to get off the snipe in time. It was just a matter of habit, I guess. Uh-oh, we have a decision this time. And a good idea is to check the turn order, or at least the timer for anything that's nearby. And it looks like plenty of other AFWs on my side will be able to finish the enemy off before they move. And that works for me. Well, that's a little tricky, isn't it? So they have mechanics on their side, so I want to be careful about fighting them close in. Well, unless, of course, my goal is to remove their squads. However, it's actually not going to be a problem because Ayana is here and they're four-legged, so they're not going to close in. So the entire battle is going to be at long range, which means the mechanics will not actually be a problem. Well. That was a lot of explanation of something that turned out to be no big deal, huh? Oh wow, that was some impressive clipping right there. I want to run through hills too. Now, I'm always getting reminders of how much damage shooters can deal when they have free shots. Also, in this case, I really should have just fired my other APC shell. I have so many special shells stored up with this squad setup. Shouldn't have worried about it. Now that worked out in my favor, but when I landed that shot, I felt a little bit of sympathetic annoyance for when I've used a smoke shot and the enemy hit anyway. And I felt that even though I'm fighting a computer that has no feelings, as far as I know. Also, hooray! Now that we've dealt with that early crisis, we're free to take the villages. Those don't look like my favorite combination of skills ever, but oh! Now that scared me. That scared me really hard. Not because they're a danger, I mean, that particular setup is no real threat to Ippei. The problem is that they're right next to that neutral village and they could capture it. And the unit I have that's closest to that village just spent its turn moving. So I have to hope that he has... I'm sorry. I know that Ippei has a supply unit, and I have to hope that they don't. Well, they are in attack range of Ippei, so it's more likely that they just move forward and try to hit him, but... do you want to leave that sort of thing to chance? I sure don't. Well, so Kinsado did get a recovery, which is nice for his recon squad. And they don't seem to have any special anti-squad skills. However, this is going to be at short range. They are both anti-soldier squads, and this is an anti-AFW, and I will almost certainly need E-Wire. So, I will probably not be able to kill their squads, seeing as it's nighttime, I have no illumination shot, blah blah blah. I'll just have to keep myself alive, just do decent damage. I'd say keep myself alive, but that's really up to luck, because I don't have any dodge actions left. Ouch. Well, that's the kind of risk I'm taking here. It might actually be better for me to stay at medium in this situation. I mean, shooting their squads is nice, but my main goal here is to not die. My secondary goal is to use 2 E-Wires on their legs, because that would mean they have completely broken legs and it happened on their move. So, yeah, good times. Dealing damage to their squads is more of a third place priority right now. But, hey, I gotta use my ammunition on something. And there you go. And of course, that's why I decided to start moving forward. Feels a little bit odd to me that they're using squads that push the enemy back on an anti-AFW. But I'm actually not that thrown off by it, because part of the point of Ring of Red is that they throw all kinds of weird enemy squad setups at you to see how you deal with them. I actually find that pretty interesting and fun. So it's going to take another battle to remove their squads, but considering the condition that everything about their unit is in, I don't expect too much difficulty. Well, Cansado doesn't have very much to gain from this battle, does he? That's probably why they chose to attack in that way. So, respect for that. Therefore, it is another runaway time. This seems to happen to Cansado more often than anyone else. Yeah, 14 damage. That's well, I've already talked about the range drop-off for that AFW. But that's definitely one of the cleaner getaways Cansado has had. And now Emilio pretty much just needs to pick a target. Wow. Well, it's actually a pretty easy decision because I still want to remove the squads from that anti-AFW. Yeah, past me, I know that standing in woods is no fun, but I mean, what are you gonna do? Let them live? This isn't that kind of game. I like the animation of them sort of hitting the back of the AFW to signal that the shell is ready. Now it's going to look like those rifle grenades missed, but if you take a quick look at the damage indicators, that's, well, not the case. Ooh, I bet that threw their aim pretty far off. Ooh, that is brutal. You've seen pretty clearly how well armored that thing is. Well, there's really no more need to open fire on them. then I realized me saying this is brutal could almost become as overused as terrible, terrible damage. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let's see. What was it? StarCraft commentator, I think? Something along those lines. Well, also, it seems that Ryoko has drawn some attention away from the group on the other side of the river. I can't imagine that she'd be opposed to this sort of one-on-one encounter. And the illumination shot here is very handy, because I wanted her to do some more walking backwards and... Oh, there we go. And having to actually take the time to set up a shot and aim it would be inconvenient. Well, normally I'm kind of scared of electrical wire, but when both sides want to be at the same range, it's not that big a deal. Although I still don't want to be hit by two of them, because that would mean that I'd have no choice but to repair. Oh well. But then again, maybe I wouldn't. They moved in to attack me, so I'd still be able to hit them back. Well, Ryoko is going to lose her shield, but it lasted an unusually long time. It also stopped this heat shell, I think. Nope, not quite. It ran out just a little bit too early. Not that the shell did much damage anyway. Yeesh. Now this is unlikely to happen because people tend not to do code diving for PlayStation 2 games quite as much as earlier, simpler games. But I'd love to see exactly how those special shells work. And just the damage formula for special attacks and normal attacks in general. Come on, fire that shell, and then move your squad forward. You are taking forever to aim what is... You didn't even do much damage. Come on. Oh, now you're just taunting me. Yeah, you're definitely taunting me. You just ordered them to move forward at 0. Oh well. There'll be opportunities for more duels. The only really threatening shell is shrapnel, which is a very nice anti-infantry shell. So if those are the ones that end up in crew, I just need to be prepared to engage them at short range. In fact, that's also best if they have tear gas shells, because I believe those also don't work at short range for anything except a light AFW. Speaking of which, that's an advantage for light AFWs that the game never talks about. I mean, on one hand, it's fun to discover these sorts of things on your own, but when it comes to games like this, I prefer to just be able to look up how everything works. That's how I make informed decisions. I'd like to think that's how most people make informed decisions. But anyway, since it's nighttime, I feel like throwing out some incendiary is a good idea. Almost as good as illumination shots. Especially since I only really need to get rid of one of their squads. Well, I'll need to get rid of both, of course, but I'll only need to do a lot of damage to one of their squads. Which makes me really happy that they put that squad forward right away. I guess that also counts as some illumination. And I just realized this video begins and ends with John. In fact, if I set it up right, it could probably be looped in a manner of speaking. I guess it's just weird how these things work out. So there was definitely no need to take an anti-squad shot there. And even though I believe they do have shrapnel loaded, and it's definitely not short range, this far away I doubt that it would even do much damage. Now that I think about it, that's kind of why anti-infantry shells are not that great on an anti-AFW. Because they can't be fired at its optimal range, and of course it's also no good at its really bad range. I think I'm out of things to say about that. Okay, I'm glad I got at least one hit like that before the battle ended. Well, I guess we'll see the rest of the cleanup next video. Later.